Olivier De Schutter, the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to food, is here in the GMT studio. Welcome, Olivier. Explain to me what is going on here. Is there genuinely a food shortage, particularly a grain shortage, or is this more about profiteering?
There is no shortage. In fact, the harvests of 2010 have been quite good, among the best of the 5 past years and the 3rd best historically.
So why is wheat at this 2-year high?
I think it shows how dysfunctional the markets are. There are some bad news, bad harvests in Russia, bad harvests in Canada, and the result of this is that countries, speculators, the traders panic, and this creates a situation which is quite irrational, quite detached from the fundamentals of supply and demand, but creates spikes in the prices which impact severely food importing countries.
Well, you call it irrational. Of course, it's not irrational from the point of view of those who want to make big profits from the spike in grain price rises. So are you saying that there are people around the world who are manipulating the market for their own ends?
What is very clear is that since 2005, 2006, a large number of institutional investors, pension funds, hedge funds, have an increased interest in the markets of agricultural commodities and have basically disrupted the normal functioning of the market, in which the physical markets react to indications from the derivatives markets where futures are traded, and the operators today are following signals which are impossible to read because of the impact of these very large financial actors.
So your duty is to figure out how to change the rules that govern the game to ensure that the poorest people in the world do get access to the food that you say is quite clearly out there. So what are you going to do? What do you recommend?
So we need more transparency about these derivatives which are being exchanged in over-the-counter trading, which is completely opaque and impossible to control. And we also need to have better information about stocks, because for the moment speculation is easy because of a great uncertainty about how much stocks each country detains, and we need to have more exchanges of information about this. We need to avoid that operators panic on the market, because this leads to artificial bubbles emerging which are unrelated to the fundamentals of the economy.
So you call it an artificial bubble. We know that the UN Food and Agriculture Organization has held this special meeting in Rome today. Is that going to make any difference, or are you in essence saying there are changes needed here which only political leaders at the very top can deliver?
It's very important that the message gets across very clearly that there is no reason to panic and that it is not useful to speculate, because the stocks have been replenished in 2008, 2009. They are quite good and there is no food shortage.
No, but looking forward and ensuring we don't make the mistakes that have been made in the past and which have seen food panics and indeed food riots, you're suggesting the rules of the game have to be changed. I'm saying, how do you get those rules changed?
Well, the US, for example, has introduced in July this year a new legislation which limits the number of positions that financial speculators may have on the futures markets of agricultural commodities. I believe that the EU should do the same. For the moment, there are certain proposals on the table which are not going as far as what has been achieved in the US, but at least shall increase some transparency, the quality of the information, and the possibility to regulate these derivatives markets, which for the moment are completely non-transparent.
Olivier De Schutter, thanks very much for joining us on GMT. Now let's take a look at some of the other stories making headlines.